Hello everyone. At the end of this exercise, you are expected to be familiar with the process of claim submissions. Let's start by illustrating one example of claiming.
Click on My Travel and Expenses tab. Under New Document section, choose Blank Document. Click on Change Settings at the bottom left of your screen. Choose your T&E category, either Travel Document or Expense Document. If there are elements of travel in your claims, you should choose Travel Document. If there aren't any elements of travel in your claims, you should choose Expense Document. As for T&E group, you should choose the department you belong to. It is usually defaulted to your department. Click OK. For the Users section, click on the magnifying glass, and search for your name. As a normal user, you can only submit the T&E document if you selected your name. If you're an administrator, you can select the name of other users as long as they belong in the same group as yours. In effect, this is similar to an act of submitting claims on behalf of other staffs. The description, reason, start date and end date sections are self-explanatory. Keep in mind that you will need to fill in all fields noted with the asterisk symbol. You can also fill in information on the other fields if you think they're relevant or necessary for this document to be processed. The default dissection is automatically pulled from the user field that you have filled in. This staff ledger here means that whatever expenses submitted and processed will be recorded under the staff's name, which will then automatically flow to each department which the user belonged to. For example, if the staff here is claiming for mileage allowance, the expenses will be recorded under his name. From finance point of view, the expense will be collectively counted as the traveling expense of his department. In more advanced form of default dissection, you could have a combination of staff ledger and grant ledger. For grant ledger, click on the item code, and choose the appropriate grant code. Make sure the account field here is the combination of item code and the 3 it signs. Key in the percentage of the apportionment as per your requirement. Whatever the expenses you're submitting in this document will always be apportioned according to this percentage by default. If you're only claiming under your faculty or department expense, please only use this line. And always make sure the total percentage is 100. Now, since the form header is complete, you can start putting in the expenses you wanted to claim. You may want to save first before proceeding to the next stage. Once you have saved, the document running number will appear here. As of now, we have 24 different categories of expense under the Travel and Expense module. The list is not exhaustive and will be amended as and when needed. Other than mileage and travel allowance, all expenses here are self-explanatory. I will take two examples of these type of expenses: ground transport and entertainment. Fill in the information accordingly, and again, you will need to fill in all field noted with the asterisk symbol. Payment method should always be pay employee, unless you have been given permission to request for advance payment for that specific expense. Now you will need to dissect the expenses here. The objective of dissecting is to check on the GST portion of your claim. The information is for financial reporting purpose. Public transport is exempted from GST. No GST impact in this transaction, thus the code ZP. The appropriate GST code is already defaulted to every line item, so you don't need to do anything here. Unless in this case, where you are also claiming from grants, you need to manually adjust the expense line. Click on the chart pick list, and look for the corresponding expenses. Since we are doing ground transport, it should be under travel and transportation, which account number is 021. Now we can close off this dialog box, and put in the code 021 at the end of the grant code. This is the only bit where manual keying in of information is needed. And it only involves grant code, so if you're only claiming under your faculty or department expenses, then most probably this part here won't affect you. I'm going to do the same for entertainment. As you can see here, the default GST code is BLC, which means that it is blocked at company level. You will still be able to claim the exact amount you spent, you just have to make sure the GST amount in your receipt tallies to the amount in here. You also have the option of not using the preset apportionment at the top. Instead of using the percentage apportionment at header level, I'm putting in my own desired figure. You can put in whatever figure you want as long as these lines here tally. You can even add another dissection line to suit the GST treatment of your purchase. The system will notify you that there are dissection of expense line which has been modified here under default dissections so that you are aware. The system will also show this piece of paper with red exclamation mark to each line item which dissection modification have been made so that you are aware. If you suddenly change your mind about claiming one of the expenses, you can delete the expense item by clicking on the X icon here. Make sure you deleted the rows first by clicking the X icon here. OK, done. Since we have sorted the straightforward claims, let's move on to mileage claim and travel allowance claim. Let's start with mileage claim. Put in the necessary information and make sure you key in all fields noted with the asterisk symbol. Once you're done, click Calculate Allowances and choose UNMC Mileage Allowance. The system will generate the allowance based on your entitlement and mode of transportation. You can calculate the allowance line by line, or you can key in the information on several lines first and generate the allowance in one go. I'm choosing different modes of transportation here in this example to illustrate the difference in rate. Again, once you're done, click Calculate Allowances and choose UNMC Mileage Allowance. The system will generate the allowance based on your entitlement and mode of transportation. Please do not forget to dissect the expense. Since you have 4 lines here, you need to dissect each line one by one. Mileage doesn't have any GST implication, thus, the code should be NA. Let's say that for mileage expense, you intend to only claim from faculty or department and not from grant. You will just need to delete the grant row, and make sure the amount here tallies. Do the same for the rest of expense line. After deleting the lines, instead of doing manually, you can always ask the system to tally the amount for you by clicking OK. So we're done with the mileage claim. Let's proceed to travel allowance claim. Add a new travel type, click Travel Allowance. This travel allowance here automatically generates allowance that you're eligible for. Click Calculate Allowances and choose ATOTA UNMC Travel Allowance. It is calculated based on information referred to in 3 expense types: airfare local, airfare international and mileage. For example, this information here was pulled from mileage information I put in before this. The system calculates based on your entitlement and was neatly arranged in tables so you would know what you're entitled to claim and what you're not entitled to. Do keep in mind that this may not be the final figure of your travel allowance, as it will be subjected to further checking by the administrators. For instances, several departments won't let you claim your allowance if you went to a function which breakfast and lunch is provided. The final figure of the travel allowance claim will be based on whatever departmental policy being referred to and is subject to the approver's discretion. Whatever figure inside this is a default figure, you can still amend the figures before submitting. For example, instead of claiming RM14, I wanted to claim only RM7. Before we proceed, always remember to dissect the lines. Again, travel allowance doesn't have GST implications, change the value to NA. Sir, we have keyed in 4 expense line items, namely entertainment, ground transport, mileage allowance and travel allowance. And I have also illustrated on how to delete one expense item, which was entertainment. Click Save. The next step is to attach scanned receipts and supporting details to this document. You can attach at the document level or at each respective expense item level. The process of attaching itself is pretty straightforward. This is how you attach at document level. And this is how you attach at expense item level. Click Save. The final step is to key in your request estimate based on the summary of the claim. Done. Always keep the habit of saving the document before proceeding to the next stage. Click Save. Check if there is any error message under the T&E document number. Since there is no error, you can proceed to submit the document by clicking Submit Expenses. Please send the document to your respective department travel and expense administrator. Search for the name and click OK. Congratulations, you have submitted your travel and expense claim document. You can proceed to your main navigation panel to check on the progress of your claim. If you're still having trouble in submitting your travel and expense document, please contact T&E support at Information System Department. Thank you, have a nice day ahead.